Hello everyone. Follow up on last night's imaging session. I'm going to bring up, first of all, these are the 4 separate images in red, green, and blue filters pardon me, that we need to take to get a color image from a monochrome camera. This image here is the blue. Notice the nice blue-white star here that really recorded well with the spikes. I actually created those spikes with a dental floss across the front of the telescope to cause a diffraction pattern, because I'm using a refractor that didn't have the supports for a secondary, which causes those diffraction patterns. This is the red filtered image, and the green one, which always comes out a lot less strong than the others, that is green. Total exposure time is about 35 minutes total. This is a relatively really short exposure. It was just done for experimenting to make sure I had everything down pat and right. It's been a while since I've done imaging, since I don't have my observatory anymore. So, and here, of course, you can use the histogram to fool around and look at the image in different ways. This doesn't do anything to the processing. The processing is all done and finalized when you save the image. So playing around with this is just a matter of seeing the image during the processing phase of the operation. The blue image there is probably the strongest of them all. So then these images are combined and they create a color image and then saved. And then I bring them into Photoshop Elements and Photoshop, or not Photoshop, but Paint Shop Pro, the 2 programs I use. I don't have a full program for Photoshop. I have these Photoshop Elements, which I find a little bit easier to use. And this is just a rough and quick processing. There's many ways you can do this processing, and you always go back and do it several times over to get a better image. It was so cold last night. It was like 25 degrees. I actually I was slightly out of focus, but it was just so hard work and everything, because the temperature was like down almost 20 degrees when I was finished working, and I just didn't get the focus as sharp as I'd like. But it was just a test run to make sure everything was working well for a big project we've got planned for next spring. And here is the histogram on this completed image. You can still play with, and that's a little too much. They usually bring it back in here. The histogram sliders to change it. One thing you don't want to change is this histogram slider back here, because that contains a lot of the color data in the stars. As you see, the stars get completely washed out and lose their color, so you don't want to move the histogram on that side of the display. So this is the image that I got last night of NGC457. It's an open galactic star cluster in the constellation of Cassiopeia. It was taken with a relatively small telescope. It's only a 4-inch refractor. I've worked with telescopes as large as 16-inch in my observatory when I had it. But this is a great imaging telescope for wide field objects. So anyway, that's the test image that I obtained last night. I believe it was the December 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Not a bad image, not a great image, but it just proves that I got everything up and running fine, and getting ready for the next phase when we hope to build a permanent pier back in the location I'm imaging from, and eventually put a slide-off housing around it, so the instrumentation will be set up full-time and not have to be set up every night, which takes quite a bit of time. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks for watching. Take care.